Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truth. How's everybody doing this Sunday evening? I hope you're doing well. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about the foggy truth in between distractions that we're getting now. Anyway, let's just say last week was an interesting time for politics, news, and all that other type of stuff. Can't wait to see what this week brings. Can't wait to see what the next lie we're all supposed to swallow is next. Anyway, I got some interesting insight. I tell you what, it's nice having technology, especially when you got the ambition to learn. And today I went to YouTube and stumbled. I'm always learning about history, and there's parts of history where I'm really weak and stuff. And it's amazing, how things can change quickly in the world. I mean, it wasn't but 100 years ago that, the British pound was a world reserve currency. The British Empire was the biggest. I mean, sun never set on the British Empire, right? And look at it now. So anybody that don't think that America, Britain's still maintaining some semblance of being a first tier society, but they're losing it just like all the other ones are. First world country, I guess what you call it, right? But it's just amazing. I was watching stuff on World War One today. Crazy time, and England definitely changed after the Victorian age was over, and Queen Victoria died, and her crazy son took over, or uncle. I mean, her son. Anyway, Edward was his name. He's a little bit of a confused individual. Anyway, but we're going to talk about the foggy truth tonight. Okay. Now, I love that they came up with the distraction that they think everybody's going to buy with this now. Now we're going to go back to the 2016 election and the Steele dossier with all that other stuff to get a distraction about what's going on with the Epstein list, okay? I think the 2020 election and maybe the voter fraud that went on it is something that needs to be looked into more than a dossier that was already proven to be fake when he was president. Anyway, but now he's going after that. He knew all about that through the first presidency, and he did nothing about it. Okay, especially when he was supposed to be the one that they're lying about. He's president of the United States and he can't do anything. But, this is the distraction they're throwing out with Obama and stuff, right? Something to hide the truth, whatever they can do. But I find it ironic, with the Epstein list. They can't find nothing with that. If they expect us Americans to buy this shit, why don't you just come out with the truth? But anyway, so we're going to get hit with distraction after distraction now. And I'm not, do I believe anything the government says anymore? Nothing. Do I believe that the government's here to sit there and help me out? Absolutely not. They could care less. And the average American, I think, will eventually figure that out. I mean, like I say, they're protected. They're above the law. They can do whatever the hell they want. We can't sit there and call these people to justice, make them pay for their crimes, because it would send us all into the dark ages. You mean you can sit there and be powerful enough and, influential enough to where you can commit a crime, but you can't be held accountable because the whole world will come to an end. It's like the piece in Jenga where you take it out and the whole thing collapses. That would mean that there's a lot of pretty powerful people that are all in this shit all over the world, right? But anyway, this is what they expect us to believe. But they're going to go back to 2016, to that election, to the Steele dossier. Okay, Trump, you were in office for 4 years when they were trying to slam you with it. Okay, you couldn't do nothing about it back then, and now you can do something about it. And then just like with Epstein, oh yeah, 2019, he died when Bill Barr was Attorney General and they were in his custody and stuff. So the whole thing's bullshit. The thing is, where's the video? They showed a video of a hallway. Where's the video of inside his cell that they have? Where's that video? Unredacted, with no time missing and stuff. Anyway, this bullshit they try to sell is just another distraction. Anyway, I'm not buying the Epstein list shit. There's no frickin' way I'm buying there was no list, client list. Because in those client lists, that means there's no victim list, right? If he didn't have any clients, garage days. I like it. You a mechanic garage or you talk garage sales? I tell you what, if you're a mechanic from an old garage, boy, they really chopped your business in half, didn't they? Hey, I appreciate you being here. Yeah, we're talking about they're hiding the truth, all the foggy truth that gets sent out, and then we get hit with this distraction on the 2016 election. I mean, are you kidding me? Okay, and then Trump's going to sit there and sue the Wall Street Journal over a birthday card, one of Epstein's birthday cards from his 50th birthday. But but he's not. Well, obviously he's going after the Steele dossier now, so I guess I can't say he ain't going after that. But he is a little sensitive about the whole subject, isn't it? Now, I'm not even saying he's on the list. But for some reason, Donald Trump has been chosen by who's ever controlling the whole situation that he has to sell it to the American people. And it's not working at all. I mean, the files are on my desk. Too much stuff was said. It's been being said for 6 goddamn years. And you're going to sit there and say there's nothing there to see? What do you do when you know our government's crooked? I guess they can always, what is it in court? Benefit of the doubt, benefit of the doubt. And they can always have that little benefit of the doubt that they can put in our mind. One thing about if a patriot wants to stand up and do the right thing, he's got to, I feel we're justified to sit there and take our country back right now the way it is. But still, for some people, they leave that, lesser of two evils. Yeah, I'm so tired of that shit. See where it gets us? God, see where it gets us? Hey, I get to choose between the devil and his son. And if you don't vote, you don't have any right to say anything. I mean, this is the bullshit they pull. And then who gets stuck in between? I mean, all I know is with the Epstein list, these people aren't being brought. I don't need the list out. I need the arrests to start happening. We'll all figure out why they're getting arrested, and we'll figure out who's on the client list. But these people are going to be emboldened. They're not going to stop. It's just going to get worse. And, more children are going to be disappearing off. Van pulls up, boom, no problem. They sit there and these liberals were complaining that that's what the government was doing to illegals. Remember, pulling up with vans and grabbing people and throwing them in, and then throwing them into alligator Alcatraz, and doing all sorts of terrible things to them, which is a lie. But kids are being abducted off the street like that, to be used for rich little beta males and beta females, because that's the only thing that can dominate as children, okay? For their ungodly sit there and bullshit stuff they want to do. You are blackmail. Bad mail. You are my hero. Oh. I'm nobody's hero, dude. I'm not, the thing is, you can only take so much, okay? When you got kids and grandkids and you don't want to have them grow up and what you see is coming. When I graduated high school back in 1986, I never saw this shit coming. And, a year and a half later in the Marine Corps, I saw the real world. And I'm glad it was all over there, but now it's here. You look like her. Anyway. So, but yeah, they're sitting there using this distraction. I don't care about the 2016 election. You know why you won't go after the 2020 election? You know what kind of uproar that would cause? I mean, if it came out that election was actually a coup against the government, or no, not against government, I shouldn't say that. A coup against the American voter, the American citizen, because the government was still there. I mean, would that make everything that administration did null and void? I mean, that would open up just another can of worms that would send this country into the dark ages. The thing is, you get one side telling on the other side, both sides are corrupt. It's like when two kids did something wrong and they both standing in front of you and they're telling on each other to try to sit there and save their own ass. That's what's going on. But I'm not buying it. I've had children before. Believe me, my children tried to throw some whoppers past me, but nothing like, no, Dad, the lists don't exist. Okay? They never tried nothing that damn stupid. Anyway, this channel will never ask for money or sell anything or for donations. But if you want to help the channel, hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the bell notification. I'd appreciate that to help the channel grow and stuff. Because like I always say, we're all in this sinking ship together. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. Okay, they're coming after all of us. And that's another little part I'm going to add to this video. What is the end game for all this? What exactly is the end game? Is the end game really to get to a point where the elites don't need to rely on 8 billion people? And they're going to downsize us to 500 million? All those, rumors and prophecies and, people that say they're in the know saying that. But that's, is that the end game to all this? Because they sure are making it like they're not going to need 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion people in the future. I mean, with AI now taking over jobs, I got a job where I get my hands dirty, I sweat, I deal with the elements and stuff, I deal with animals, so I'm pretty safe. But if you do any job that remotely can be taken over by AI, this is going to be a bad time. It's going to be a real bad time. That's one thing I guess they'll solve the problem of that in the future, I guess, with universal basic income, right? UBC or UBI, I'm sorry. Crazy time. I mean, we already got that. It's called welfare. Anyway, but I guess that's the advancement of the human being. Yep, they keep telling the population is down. We need more people. I laugh when government all over the world were saying this. Yeah. The thing is, okay, about the earth can only handle so many human beings. When you're out on a ranch and you got this many cows in a pasture and, it's they go by, like in Minnesota where I grew up and stuff, it was 1 acre of corn and alfalfa and everything per cow. Okay, to raise a cow, out to feedlot side and stuff, or dairy cow and stuff like that. But out in these pastures where it's like 25 acres per cow, yeah, because there's not a lot of grass. You can only put so many cows on there. Okay, and then the land, if you overgraze it, you have problems that takes years to solve. In the planet can only handle so many people. This is why we got all this technology again. All this, the big gray white elephant in the room is we need to, since we have no more mountain ranges to sit or no more land on this planet to colonize, we need to start looking up and start coming together instead of trying to make bombs and destroy each other. Come together and come up with the technology it's going to take to, like Star Trek, take us off to the stars. I mean, it really didn't take them too long to build a nuclear bomb now, did it? Yeah, a few years and stuff, but that's what human beings can do when they're motivated. Anyway, but yeah, I live in an area that's really the least populated part of the United States is where I live, okay? Where the counties have less than 2,000 people in it. I mean, they're not small area-wise, they're just small population-wise. And, that's why up in the Sandhills in northern Nebraska, the people that live there, if stuff ever got stupid, they could live off the game that's there. But if you were to sit there and influx those counties that have 1,200 people in, 1,300 people in, influx those counties with another 5,000, 6,000 people, there's no housing. I don't know how they would do it. That's one thing about around here. You need to be self-sufficient. It's not like we got the facilities, the housing, or anything to take care of, or if that many people were to come in. You better be self-sufficient. But anyway, that's what's happening. And I believe that Mother Earth is alive, and when she's had enough, okay, see, they all called the COVID pandemic a pandemic. It wasn't no pandemic. It was a new disease that was introduced to the human beings that was man-made, and it did kill people. But I never did see that the man who made it go to prison or executed for crimes against humanity. But we won't go down that. But if you study the 1917, 1918 Spanish flu, that's what ended World War I, people. 10%, up to 10% of the population of the world died because of that bug. And they want to sit there and say that Game of Simon Says was just like, no. See, I studied the 1918 Spanish flu 30 years ago, okay? Studied it quite intensely. And that's why I had a little bit more of a heads up when they sit there and try to lie to people. That's what happens when you don't teach history. Like the history I watched today and stuff. Boy, England, like I say, people in this country don't think things can change. Well, look how far, England fell in 100 years. From an empire where the sun never set on it, to the world reserve currency, to the strongest economy. They've come a long ways in 100 years, haven't they? They've really progressed in the right direction. But you watch their history and what it did, it's the same way we're doing it. Crazy time. I mean, I love learning more history because the more I learn about the history of the past, just helps me understand more what's going on now, because we're living in historic times. This ain't the 1980s when everything was cool and all we had to do was worry about getting nuked from Russia. That wasn't historic times. We're living in historic times now. The empire of the United States of America is collapsing. Financially, culturally, spiritually, any other way? And then we let our kids sit there and get kidnapped on the street so they can get in sex slavery. But as long as some people in this country, as long as their bank accounts are all balanced and their money supply is still good and they're all living comfortably, well, they can sacrifice a little bit of common sense. Oh, I'm so sick. And, what's worse? A Democrat liberal giving Trump a free pass or a Republican giving him a free pass? What the hell's worse? Things have changed a lot. I know. How old are you, Jeff? I'm 58. I graduated in 1986, almost 40 years ago. Can you believe that? Shit, next year's a 40-year class reunion. I just may go to that. Haven't been to one since the 10-year. I may go to one. But yeah, things have free pass on what? About fucking our kids getting kidnapped off the street and, being used as toys for these people. Anyway, 44. Okay. Yeah, things have changed. So you went to school during the Clinton years and stuff. Did you, all my teachers I had, they were all educated in college before the Department of Education. Okay. Now, when I got later in the high school, we had a couple teachers that graduated after the Department of Education was introduced from college. But I tell you what, there was a big difference in respect from the teachers before and the teachers that came after that. But all the teachers that I had in school in the 90s, when Clinton took over, they all quit. And I came from a school that had, we were all in the same building, big building. Of course, they had the elementary part and the junior high and high school, they were separated as best it could be, but 750 kids all in the same building. And we got a great education. Like I say, I loved growing up when we grew up. We were the number one educated kids in the world. Number one. And that was even for the kid that didn't goddamn try. We knew who we won our independence from in kindergarten when we were doing the skit on George Washington crossing the Delaware. Ask somebody who graduates these days who we won our independence from. 9 times, well, I'll say 10 times out of 10, because I still haven't had anybody answer it right, at least the last 15 years. Even somebody that was going to go to school to be a teacher. They all say France. And you know how I answer it? What language do you speak? That's what we're dealing with. They're fogging these kids' mind with pharmaceuticals and stuff. I dealt with that when my kids went to school. My kids started school in 2002. The first one did. And the last one finally graduated in 2022. But I tell you what, I had lots of arguments with superintendents. I mean, school had changed that much. I mean, we're trying to do homework with your kids, right? And you're doing division, and they're talking about, I'm sitting there saying you do, how we were taught, the steps of math. Math is another thing. It's got freaking rules. If you don't follow the rules, you don't learn it right. But she's starting to talk about this guesstimation shit and stuff. What are you talking about guesstimate? Well, a teacher said, well, what if it was this? I mean, they don't even know their addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division tables. That was standard for us. You can't do advanced math if you can't do simple math in your head. I mean, if you're doing a math problem that takes 3 pages of tablet paper, if you can't do simple math, you're going to be struggling. How the hell do these college professors do it when they're getting these kids in these math classes that literally don't even know what 2 + 2 equals? Are they just taking the money and passing them? I mean, I'm sure there's a few people that saw the video of the lady who was working in a cubicle. She was like in her mid-20s. And she said she had her bachelor's degree, but she couldn't spell. She used spell check for everything. And then you got the new teachers that say, I guess the new generation is called Gen Alpha. Up until these elementary and stuff and new kids, kindergartens, these teachers are quitting because they said that The kids are basically unruly, worthless, and can't be taught and have absolutely no attention span, except for they're constantly concentrating on what they were doing on their phone to get the dopamine. Anyway, teaching is not a career that you retire from no more. That's what teachers say. When all the teachers that I had, they all retired early, but they did other jobs. But the ones I had in elementary and stuff that were starting to retire when I was in high school, I mean, they retired from it. And now teachers have had enough. Hey, wasn't it Steve Jobs? Well, remember him? What wouldn't he do? Oh, yeah, his kids weren't allowed to have a cell phone, be connected to the internet. If that's one guy that should have known, that knew what was going to happen, he was one. Wish he would have warned the world before he died, you know. And of course, I'm sure he knew a lot about AI. But yeah, remember, his kids weren't allowed to deal with technology. Wonder how they were taught. Very private school, and probably had tutors at home. I don't even know if they were allowed to watch TV. Crazy time. Maybe you want them to develop their minds first, so when they looked at stuff on TV, they could sit there and have the conscious thought like, Shameless, this is an absolutely stupid show. Okay. My kids watch that, and it seems like every time I walked in the room, there was some disgusting ass scene going on, and I'm just like, this is TV these days? This is TV these days? Boy, it sure changed a lot since MASH and Gilligan's Island, hasn't it? Okay. The last real sitcom I watched, the newest one, probably would have been My Name is Earl. I really liked the first 2 seasons, and before that, it would have been Third Rock from the Sun. But other than that, it's 80s stuff, 70s stuff, 60s stuff, Hogan's Heroes, Petticoat Junction, Dukes of Hazzard, Magnum, all the good ones when I was growing up and stuff. But, that's just, last week was dedicated to, as a human race, gone insane. And that's all I'm seeing these days. Like I say, if you're sitting there going to look at your bank account and think that's more important than some child that's going to get abducted off the street, well, I hope that's never your child and you want justice for your child. But whatever. And then these people just love it when they snatch kids, and then all of a sudden the parents of these kids get in trouble for their disappearance. Like that English couple, I can't remember, Spain or Portugal, where their little blonde girl got abducted. And they're trying to sit there and say they killed her. Yeah, you go on vacation to kill your freaking child. No, but that's where these sons of bitchin' people will hang out to grab them. Sick, sick, sick. So I really wonder what the real reason is why we're getting all this little foggy truth all the time. I wonder what the distraction. Nobody's buying it, okay? And if people are going to wait, okay, we'll wait on the Epstein list until after this 2016 election shit was over, which you'll never get over. We need to stay focused, okay? We want the arrests to start happening. And I'm sorry, Trump, you got to arrest yourself. Oh, well. But to sit there and run on releasing the Epstein list and then to say there's no Epstein list. And it's on her desk. Truckloads of evidence coming down. Terabytes of information. But that was just, Epstein had his own server and his own big old room full of memories because he was just downloading child porn all day. How many years was he doing that for? Let's see. He did all of that, right? And they got, departments and police agencies that cover all that shit, right? So you're telling me Epstein did all that and then somehow created billions of dollars with no industry. But he was able to do that for all that time and never get caught. And then he killed himself over downloading child porn. Okay, that's why he killed himself, because he downloaded child porn. Right? Anybody believe that shit? And then the pictures come out. Oh, Trump, I distanced myself from him because I knew he was a shady individual. No, you knew what he was doing. And if you did distance yourself from him, you didn't do nothing about it. That means that if you knew something that he was a shady character and doing that type of shit, that means he got arrested in 19. That means he was running around for over 2 years before he got arrested. I mean, I'm sorry. Are the cops getting that stupid where they can't even investigate something that's right in front of their face? I'm just curious. I mean, maybe they need to sit there and put some investigative reporters on it, and all this shit. They're stupid. If they expect me to believe that, they're stupid. And if the law enforcement agencies are coming up with that conclusion, they're the Keystone Cops. But don't worry. You better wear your seatbelt. You better pay your taxes. You better make sure that you're a good American and doing everything that you're supposed to. Anyway, it's going to come to nip us all in the ass. Our day of reckoning's coming. I suggest all Americans get prepared for that day, because the government sure has done a lot of preparing for that day. And then we're all going to see how they leave us out on the line high and dry, okay? But anyway, that's all I got for now. I appreciate everybody being here. Had an earlier live stream tonight. I see none of my moderators showed up, but I appreciate everybody being here. If you watch my shorts, if you would, my other content, share the content, help get the word out, because nobody's going to go to Washington and save the average man no more, okay? Unless the average man goes to Washington carrying the Second Amendment with people on both sides of the aisle to sit there and solve this problem. And that's what's going to take. So whenever, you feel you got to that point, start preparing for that time. Anyway, crazy times, but I'm not believing the lies no more. I haven't believed them for years. Our government lies about everything, but they're telling the truth, right? Let's say you see something funny in the sky that doesn't really exist. They call you a fool, right? That they say doesn't exist. But see, that's not Pam Bondi seeing it in the sky, or President Trump seeing it in the sky, or Kash Patel seeing it in the sky. Those people that said they saw it, the list, now all of a sudden they're saying, no, I guess I didn't see that. Really? Anyway, strange world we live in. But anyway, everybody have a great night. I appreciate you being here. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.